Yo. So here is the sentencing. It's only like an hour and some odd minutes. I got to take off, but you know, the goal says whatever you feel like. Trial is over. All right, so I don't really know. You know, I mean, I don't have the. I just set it at $5. If you guys want to, you know, help the, you know, the trial's over. Goal setting, who the hell knows? But anyways, yeah, this is set for, I set my timer set for an hour and 10 minutes. It's only an hour and 1 minute. So, I mean, I guess you could actually chat all the way up until I finally get home and turn it off. All right. Anybody there? Can you guys hear me? All right. Okay, here we go.
Took over as duty judge this morning, and they had to update my computer and download stuff, so I do apologize. But we're ready to get started. Is the state ready to call your first witness as to the sentencing?
Yes, Your Honor. State calls Ms. Donna Warga.
Donna Warga, if you'll come on down, ma'am. Now, normally we just do these from the podium, so that's fine? Okay. Ma'am, I will need to swear you in, though, first, and then at the end, the defense will have the opportunity to ask you questions. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Johnson, did you have questions, or you just have, do they have something that they're going to read, or?
They have statements that they've prepared for reading. Is that okay with you?
That's fine. That's absolutely fine with me, but that does open up the door then if Mr. Marchese has any questions of them as far as cross-examination after they've read their statements.
Yes, Judge.
Okay, absolutely. You may proceed, ma'am. You know what? Let's do this. Let's state your, that microphone, let's make sure it's on.
Hello?
Well, is the green light on?
Yes.
Perfect. So go ahead and state your name, your full name for the record first.
Donna Warga. Waryga.
All right. Find a pin that works. Mr.
You have something that you prepared?
It's from my husband and I, Walter Warga.
Okay. You may do that.
I'm Lisa Mathewson's mother and her father. Trevor Stephen Summers, charismatic narcissist, in his own words, Arden and Landon, what your mother told you about me being good at manipulation, controlling, and lying is true. This did not start March 11, 2017. This has been his whole life. For years, Mr. Summers found himself into situation after situation, and it was never, ever his fault. Trevor always blamed someone else. Trevor moved the family around all the time for job opportunities to get rich quick. And wherever they moved, he would bring his family with him, and in my opinion, to keep an eye on Lisa. We never gave up on our daughter or grandchildren. Trevor hoped he would, that we would, and then she would not have family support she needed. When she left him in October for a new life, we warned her he was dangerous and could get her alienated away from her friends. You have to think like Trevor and be 3 steps ahead of him. I told all of my friends and family, if anything happens to Elisa, know for sure Trevor did it. Her sister told her husband, one day my sister will be on 48 Hours or 2020. Look what happened March 11 to 13, 2017. No, we don't have a crystal ball, but we knew what Trevor was capable of. When we found out Lisa had been kidnapped, we knew he had planned this, and it was so he did not have to go to federal prison a few days later in Philadelphia. We were in Pennsylvania at 8:27 a.m. Sunday morning, March 12th, when we found out and got the first flight available to Orlando, as all flights to Tampa were completely booked for spring break. Not like his mother, who went back to bed for 3 hours after the police had knocked on her door at 3 a.m. to inform her of a kidnapping and the children being alone. She was only 15 minutes away from being with her grandchildren and knowing her son and daughter-in-law were missing. Why didn't she care more has been my question for 5.5 years. We drove right to the command center in Elisa's neighborhood and met Sheriff Charlie Keenan. And I told him, we called Trevor, Teflon Trevor, because nothing ever sticks criminally. He always gets out of it. He told me when Elisa was found, he took that to heart and wanted this one to stick. This is why you need to give Trevor life. Make this one stick. When Elisa was taken from the car, one of the first things she asked, do my parents know about this? Are they here? Of course we would be there because she is our daughter and we care about her and our grandchildren. He mentions lies. He can convince anyone of anything to benefit him. His lies caused so many questions what Elisa would say. I believe that the trial, people now believe Elisa and not Trevor's lies anymore. For some, it took 5.5 years to accomplish this. On a final note, you may have noticed the support Elisa had during court, surrounded by family and friends. She is a strong woman that I am proud of to call my daughter. My granddaughters who testified have learned to be strong young women from seeing their mother go through all of this for not just the court time, but the past 5.5 years. This whole family needs closure and needs to know that Trevor will never set foot out of prison for the rest of his life. They have a man in their life now, Jeff Matthewson, who is the foundation they all need, and he will hold this family together and will not fail them like Trevor did. Trevor was all about Trevor, and he was the only one that mattered in his life. The children were pawns to get to the queen, and they did not matter where he was concerned. Jeff told my husband at court, Elisa and these kids are my life, and he will do anything for them. I hope I hear these words today. Trevor Stephen Summers, life in prison.
Here, hold on 1 second. Ms. Marquez, do you have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, anything else, Ms. Johnson?
Nothing
All
further.
right, thank you, ma'am. I'll ask Kate to just call your next witness.
The statement's next false information.
Cooper's office. Mr. Summers, good morning and welcome. We're going to bring you down to that microphone. Can we move the microphone down, I think to the next level? Yeah, you can down there. All right, Mr. Summers, welcome. The first thing that I need to do, sir, is swear you in. So if I could please have you raise your right hand. Thank you very much. Do you swear or affirm anything that you say today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You can put your hand down. Ms. Johnson, do you have questions, or does Mr. Summers have something? You may proceed.
He prepared a statement, Judge.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I have to object. Please qualify this witness.
Understand. Mr. Summers, I just have to ask you a couple of additional questions, sir. Do you know what it means to tell a lie?
I'm sorry?
You have to answer out loud.
Yes.
All right. And can you tell me what a lie is?
Yes.
What is a lie?
Basically, I can say, like, something that's wrong, but it's not right.
If I told you that my jacket that I'm wearing, they actually call it a robe, but if I told you that it was red, would that be a lie?
Yes.
And is it wrong to tell a lie?
Yes.
And you understand that I asked you to swear to tell the truth today? Did you understand that?
Yes.
And do you understand that if you don't tell the truth today, that there can be consequences for that?
Yes.
Do you know what consequences are?
Yes.
Tell me what they are.
There's something that happened after, and something that you have to deal with because you made a wrong choice.
Thank you, sir. You're a very smart young man. I'm going to allow you now. I'm going to find, the court's going to find. Did you have something?
I just want the court to inquire if his statement is self-made or if someone wrote the statement for him.
what to say, or what proceedings, what
Well, you're gonna have the opportunity, I'm not gonna cross-examine the young man. You will have the opportunity, if you wish, to ask him any questions. All right, Mr. Summers, I've asked you all the questions that I'm gonna ask you. Now it's my understanding that you prepared something that you would like to read, is that correct? You may proceed, sir.
Flashback to when I was 3 years old when I thought I could not be harmed by a careless father. I was scared and worried knowing I was left alone in an empty house. I wonder what father had that careless of mind leave a 3-year-old alone while trying to kidnap his mom and not knowing what was going to happen to him. He was going to be caught by the police and get himself life in prison. Now we go back to my life now in 2022, how this has affected me and my family, not including him. It has made me stressed. It has made me put other people in danger for me because this made me put my anger towards kids at my school and has made me a bully, and I regret every decision I have made because this can lead to me not living a life with help or right paths.
Is that all of the statement? Ms. Johnson, do you have any questions of Mr. Summers?
No.
Mr. Marchese, do you have questions of Mr. Summers?
Yes, I do. Hi, young man. How old are you?
9.
And I see that paper is typed.
Yes.
Do you know how to use a typewriter or a computer?
Yes.
Did you type this yourself?
My mom wrote like 2 sentences and then I wrote the rest.
Okay. Do you know why we're here? Do you know what this is happening?
Yes.
Tell us.
Because Trevor made a wrong decision.
And I heard you say life in prison. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot to me, and that's a good thing though.
Do you know what it means?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
He's never stepping foot out of jail for life.
And is that something that you came up with, or did your mother tell you this?
I came up with it.
You know, I'm going to ask that this statement be stricken, as he's already admitted that his mother wrote 2 of the lines of the sentences we don't know.
The 2 start ones.
Which ones?
The 2 first ones.
Now you know which ones.
Now I know this one. Well, I asked that the ones that his mother wrote be stricken, and they accept only the statements of Mr. Summers and not statements made by Mrs. Matheson to her son. Yes.
Mr. Summers, did your mom help you prepare your statement?
A little, but not really.
And is that because you're 9?
Yeah.
And is all the words that you read, is that what you wanted to say?
Mm-hmm. I said the word and she typed, but then I said it.
I don't have any words.
Just, what are the first 2 sentences? Can you read the first 2 sentences for me again, Mr. Summers?
Okay. Flashback to when I was 3 years old when I thought I could not be harmed by a careless father. I was scared and worried knowing I was left alone in an empty house.
Those are the first 2 sentences?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'll disregard those 2 sentences in an abundance of caution. Anything else? Any other questions of this, Mr. Summers?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. I'll ask State, please call your next witness.
The state next calls Brent Summers.
Brent?
Brent.
Ms. Summers, welcome. You come on down to that podium and I need to swear you in just like the other witnesses. If you please raise your right hand. Thank you, ma'am. You swear affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. All right, and how old are you? And do you know the difference between the truth and a lie? And can you tell me what that difference is? Do you know that is it bad to tell a lie? Why? If I told you that it was Wednesday today, would that be the truth or a lie? What's the truth? That's all right. All right, thank you, ma'am. Now, does she have a written statement?
Yes, Judge.
All right. You may present your statement, ma'am. You might want to move it down just a little bit. It's fully adjustable. I can hear you. Madam Court Reporter, can you hear her?
At this moment, yes.
Okay, we'll let you know if we can't hear you.
Trevor Summers has impacted my life by making me get behind in school and involved making me noticed for not a good reason. I'd rather be noticed for something good and influential that I've done for the world, and be an icon to others, not to be known that my father is a criminal. I get the sensation of anger and strong emotions of grief just to the thought of him in his face. Trevor Summers has mainly impacted my life when it comes to feeling safe sometimes. Even though ball teachers are thought or ball guys short of ball. He's mainly impacted my life with trust. Trusting people and making promises that they can't keep. Trevor Summers said the night of the kidnapping that he promises everything's going to be okay between my mom and him and my mom. Everything was not okay. Every time a teacher mentioned something about, like, memories, I always think back to them and almost cry across the times because of this reason. Every time I think of him, some emotions come up like a wave of sadness. I never cried so much after I left the courtroom that day. The tension in the courtroom, when I came together, clenching my jaw as he asked me questions about the crime he did himself. Trevor Summers didn't leave my mom with a single penny. She did this all by herself. She built this foundation that he could never pull out. She stood up to him. I'm so proud of her. When I'm older, I want to be just like her. Powerful, independent, strong woman who won't let any man control her any longer. I will be so grateful to hear that my own father is giving a life sentence, and I never have to see him in his bored face again.
Any questions? Anything else, Ms. Johnson, from the stand? Any questions for Casey?
No question.
Thank you, Ms. Summers. I'll ask Kate, please call your next witness.
Arden Summers.
Arden Summers. Okay, the first thing, welcome, Ms. Summers. The first thing I need you to do is swear you in, so if you raise your right hand, please. Do you swear affirmative testimony you give this time will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, put your hand down. Tell me again how old you are at this time.
I am 20 now.
All right, I'm not going to ask you any additional questions. You've sworn to tell the truth. Do you understand what that means?
Yes, sir.
You may proceed.
All right, thank you. I was 14 when he ultimately betrayed me. The man I thought could do no wrong and that I looked up to had broken something that will never be fixed or forgotten. Here I am today, still dealing with the consequences of your actions. For 5.5 years, I have struggled with what happened to my family, especially for the part I took in it. On the night of March 11, 2017, I let you into my mom's house through a bedroom window. I will forever live with the guilt of what you did, even though I know that I could not have known what was going to happen. I trusted you in what you said. You told me you needed to speak to her and that it wouldn't be long. But little did I know I would be assisting in putting my mom through hours, even days, of hell. And the anger towards myself had built up inside. How could I not see how strange it was to let you in the window? Why didn't I question it? Even during that time when I waited down the street in your car, I thought it was odd how long it took you to wake my mom up. I have the burning question of why couldn't I do more? But now I realize the answer to that question. Because I was a child who trusted her parents, and a child who trusted her father. The guilt has affected me for 5 years, eating away at my soul. Therapy and medication was not enough to tame the burning flame inside me. I was led to destructive behaviors, none of which I am proud of. The physical pain I inflicted upon myself was nothing compared to the pain of the guilt I felt and the weight I carried on my young shoulders. While no one else blamed me for what I did, for what happened, I did. I fought against my own demons for over 5 years, all because of the actions of one man. I am 20 now, and while I have grown and overcome most of my demons, I still crave the closure I've been waiting for. The closure that 14-year-old me needs. Sorry.
All right.
I stand here today and share my story, one that I have been waiting to tell for all too long, one that has burned into the heart of my 14-year-old self. I was a child when I let you into my mom's house. I was a child when you told me to make an almost 30-minute drive with 3 other children in the car to your house. I was a child when you broke all my trust, my hopes, and my dreams. Even after my parents were found, my siblings and I were ripped from the only known homes we knew, that of my parents. We were put with your parents and then moved to a family friend's home, neither of which were stable. This led to a worsening decline in my mental health. I was diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and PTSD. I was put on antidepressants, but it didn't help my constant PTSD episodes and sleepless nights. It felt as if everything around me was a trigger. I couldn't even go to school without having an episode of some kind most days. This continued until I was reunited with my mom in December of 2017. The only event in my long journey of healing began. But even as I healed, the trial loomed over me. While I was anxious for the end and the closure I needed, I knew I had to face you one more time. And finally, that day came. I was as ready as I would ever be. The day came for me to sit in front of the jury. However, I found out last minute that I would be questioned by the man I feared the most. To sit there and be questioned by you tortured me. All I could feel was my body shaking and my heart pounding. I felt as if I couldn't breathe as you questioned me. Even after testifying, the mental anguish lingered. But the hard part was over and the weight off my shoulders. Now I stand here today, stronger than I was before, ready for this sickening chapter to end. After years of continuances and waiting for closure, I am ready. Ready for the end and for the peace of mind. I may no longer be a child, but I can allow my inner child to heal. To heal from the damage her father had caused. I still have resentment, but it is no longer towards myself. Only towards the man I thought was my father, Trevor Summers.
Any questions, Mr. McCabe?
State call you into
The state club released Jackson.
Would you come on down to the podium, please? I believe I swore you in earlier, so you are still under oath.
Yes, you're out.
You may proceed.
My victim impact statement is directed at Trevor Summers. I suffered horrific pain during a 55-hour ordeal when I was tortured by you, Trevor Summers. Even though I may not act like most victims, your crimes that weekend changed me. I am not the same woman as I was in March 2017. I was weak. I would fall apart. I couldn't sleep. And if I did, I would startle awake at 3 a.m. in a complete panic that you were attacking me again. I wanted to roll in a ball and give up. The amount of destruction that was left in the wake of your crimes was overwhelming, but I couldn't give up. I had 5 traumatized children that needed me to be the strong one. Let me start there. My eldest children had severe parental alienation caused by you. It took years of hard work and dedication to rebuild those relationships. Oh, how I cried at the pain that you caused them, the guilt in Arden, the hatred and anger in Landon. But I am happy to report that my love for them overcame your evil intent. All 5 children have love and stability, being raised by me and a real man who protects his family from monsters like you. In 2017, I was triggered by bald men in black t-shirts, and men in general. But now I was able to sit in front of an all-male jury, knowing that real men would never tolerate you. You used religion to get what you wanted. You tried to pervert God's word and shake my faith. While Psalms 118:17 says, I will not die, I will live, and I will proclaim what the Lord has done. God has given me the strength to stand strong against you. I am blessed beyond measure now in 2022, although I did not feel that way in 2017. You see, in 2017, when I was found, you owed over $100,000 to the IRS. Your bank accounts were overdrawn. You were being evicted from Newberry Grove Loop, and your car was returned to Enterprise where you rented it from. I was left, a penniless single mom of 5, surrounded by your lies and chaos. I had to make the choice to either roll over and give up,
or continue fighting against the destruction you caused. I now have a successful career, and I can provide for my family without anything from you. You have never shown remorse for any of your crimes. You have impacted so many in a truly negative, evil way, leaving victims in several states across the country. But you didn't want that discussed during the trial. You were the one opening the door to the fact that your lies finally caught up with you, and you already had federal charges with pending sentencing when you kidnapped me. Yet you continue to lie and manipulate by trying to get a mistrial if it was discussed, painting an even worse picture of you. You get absolutely zero credit of mine or the children's happiness. The credit goes to my husband, Jeff. He has sacrificed to put us first. He has been there picking up the pieces of brokenness that you treated as trash. We are worth so much more. And we will continue to do great things with our lives. You, on the other hand, will not. You will rot away for what you have done, and you don't deserve any more of my time or energy. Instead, I will use this time to thank Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department and Randall Crosby, as well as others, for saving my life. Jennifer Johnson, Jessica O'Connor, Judge Sabella, and the gentlemen of the jury for their hard work and dedication in seeking justice, thank you. I'd like to thank Riverstone Church, their pastor Matt and Katie, their deacons, their congregation, for the love and support during the most difficult time of my life. The Spring of Tampa Bay for being by my side from the beginning, believing me before the kidnapping, advocating and guiding me, bringing awareness and healing to those who suffer from domestic violence. You all are warriors. To my friends, supporters, and survivor sisters everywhere, thank you for inspiring me to be the best version of myself. May I go on and help others with strength and hope of healing. My parents, my brother, and the rest of my family, words can never express my thanks and love for you all. You carried me when I couldn't stand. You gave me strength and provided the tools for me to carry on. I still hear Poppy whisper, "I love you, sweetheart." My 5 children, you are my world. You are so very special to me, and I am extremely proud to be your mom. Arden, you are brave. Landon, you are courageous. Bryn, you are determined. Grady, you are confident. And Cooper, you are bold. I look forward to a lifetime of memories and special moments we will continue to share and all of the love between us. And finally, Jeff Matthewson, the love of my life, thank you. I get to spend the rest of my life growing old with you, feeling loved and protected. Raising our children, celebrating their milestones, watching them grow, may we continue to build an incredible life together. I am thankful every day for having a second chance at life. I am now free, and I am asking for the maximum possible sentence for peace of mind for myself and my family.
If you hold on this through, any questions? No, no questions. Anything else in the case? Okay, you have any other witnesses?
No other witnesses.
All right, I'll turn to the defense. You indicated that there were no other witnesses, but do you have any thing at this time?
I have no witnesses. I don't know if Mr. Summers wanted to address the court.
He certainly may if he wishes to.
I can agree.
All right, let me swear you in. If you're raised right hand, thank you. You swear to testimony you give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so you got. All right, you may proceed.
Your Honor, I would like to say that one thing that's tough about all of this is not being able to communicate while this is all happening. And for that, I think I certainly regret the inability to let Arden know that she's never been to the range since the beginning. That my children are wonderful, that they are strong, that they had a good foundation that they will continue to have a good foundation. And also to be able to simply say sorry to Lisa, her family, for the pain that they've experienced. My biggest remorse and regret is that they feel the way they do about me. I do have memories, and I know they can find something there somewhere, and I pray that they would know that they would love, that sometimes things just won't turn out the way that we intend them to turn out, and that again, if I would have been able to, right when this had happened, I would have apologized then. I would have been able to express, I would have been able to express my concerns, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to speak, but I can't say too much about the case as a concern and caution for potential health issues. But I can say from my heart that I certainly would have made this right sooner if I would have had that door open to do that. And I understand the position I'm in while being a defendant and not be able to communicate that apology soon. I do ask you, Your Honor, to just consider facts in the case and my heartfelt sorrow for the way that they feel. And Your Honor, I will continue to pray for them to be strong through this. Thank you.
Hold on, Mr. Marquez, did you have any questions of Mr. Summers?
No.
Did you say that?
Hang on.
Thank you. Anything else from the defense before I hear? My intention is to, well, first let me ask, because I think you have in your hand the pre-sentence investigation, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure that everyone received the pre-sentence investigation, which we actually received this morning, and I've had the opportunity to review, and a copy was given to each side. So, Mr. Marquez, if you do have that.
I haven't, I've discussed it with Mr. Summers, he has a copy.
Excellent.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I want to, there's two number ones, and I want to make very clear that the first number one is not a charge that was tried as part of this case. It is a separate case number that is still pending in front of Judge Hughes. State, am I correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So I just wanted to make very clear that there's no misunderstanding regarding the PSI and the inclusion of that case, that charge on here. It is reflected at the top by the different case number 3962. The rest are 3817 CF 3896, which includes the 11 charges that were tried by the jury in this case. Do you agree, Mr. Marquez?
I agree with that number one on armed false imprisonment enlisted it as being adjudicated, which it is not.
You are correct, and I will note that because you were absolutely right. It is pending.
Pending.
All right. So it's an error on the PSI, whether it's a typographical error or whatever. The court is aware of it, and will certainly take that into consideration as to any weight that I give to the PSI. Ms. Johnson, did you want to be heard on that at all?
No, Judge, and I did not include that charge on this score sheet.
Score sheet, okay, and I appreciate that. All right, so Mr. Marchese, I'm going to turn to the state now and ask what sentence they are requesting, and then I'll give you an opportunity. You have something before
I just want to make one complaint about the score sheet.
Hold on, let me find it. I have it somewhere. Here it is. Yes.
You have, Your Honor, as to prior record, the person who has no prior record, he's pending the sentencing in federal court, they have no prior record. They listed a number of 8 misdemeanors, but all of them are 10 years old, if not more. And so we object, it's only 1.6, maybe a month, you know. And we're objecting that all of those 8 misdemeanors are all remote in time, they're past 10 years. I think the ones that we have, this last one was 1994.
But is there any, do you have any authority to support I understand as to credibility of a witness, that there may be a 10-year limitation, but as to the score sheet, do you have any authority for a 10-year on prior crimes being included on the score sheet?
Sure, it's the other way around. To impeach a witness, you can impeach a witness with a crime anytime you committed a crime 15, 20 years ago, it would be listed. But as a score sheet, my understanding, they can only list crimes that are not remote, that are a minimum of at least 10 years or younger.
Okay, I'll have to say to respond. I hear argument all the time, though, the 10 years, and they steal that from the federal rule with the 10-year limitation. But I hear in this courtroom all the time that I shouldn't consider or allow impeachment of crimes beyond 10 years, and I think there's some authority to support that. Let me ask the state, do you agree that these on section 4 prior record are more than 10 years old?
Judge, I know we discussed, Mr. Marquez and I discussed this during the pendency of the case, or I discussed it with Mr. Summers. I honestly cannot remember. In the abundance of caution for this not to be an issue, I will remove these 8 misdemeanors.
I think they should be. The statute says if they were committed more than 10 years before the alleged crime in this offense, that they should not be included.
And I honestly cannot tell you, Judge, because I know that even though he hasn't been sentenced on the federal charges, if he committed those within the 10 years, then they would be able to come on. But since it's only 1.6 points in the abundance of caution, let's just remove it.
All right, I agree.
And I found that information from the pre-sentence report. It gives us all of the convictions. The last one was 1994. So yes, 1.6 months, but we will that out.
All right, no, I understand. And the state is conceded, and I'll ask an amended criminal punishment code 14 be submitted, but for purposes of the sentencing today, I will subtract those points.
Yes, Judge, so it's going to be, bottom will be 385.35
That's months.
months.
All right, perfect, thank you. All right, so anything else, Ms. Marquez, before I turn to the state to see what's said and seeking? All right, Mr. Johnson.
Judge, the defendant faces life on counts 1, 2, and 3. On the sexual battery counts, Judge, those are second-degree felonies, which is a maximum of 15 years. On the child neglects, those are a maximum of 5 years. And on the last count, Judge, grand theft motor vehicle is also 5 years. And on the last count, it's a misdemeanor. So it's a first-degree misdemeanor punishable by 364 days. Based upon the victim's wishes, the severity of these crimes and the number of crimes and the manner in which the defendant committed them and his multiple confessions to them, we would be asking the defendant be sentenced to life as to counts 1, 2, and 3, and the maximum penalties as to all other counts.
Let me just ask you, do the maximums as to counts 4 through 10 increase to the amount of the bottom of the guidelines?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Is the maximum, or actually the required sentence of each of those, not the 385.35 months, instead of 15 years as to count 4, 15 years as to count 5, 5 years as to count 6 through 10? You asked that I sentence to the max, but I thought I heard you say 15, 15, 5, 5, 5. So what is the appropriate sentence when he scores higher than the max?
The court can make finding as to sentence him more based upon the bottom of the guidelines.
I'm not required to do that. Lowest permissible sentence must be imposed when the score exceeds the statutory maximum. You want to take a moment?
Yes, Judge.
All right. just for the attorneys, I'm looking at section 921.0024, subsection 2. And the specific language is towards the end of that paragraph 2, where it says, if the lowest permissible sentence under the code exceeds the statutory maximum sentence as provided in section 775.082, the sentence required by the code must be imposed. Are we not in that situation?
Judge, can you approach for a moment?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so now we'll turn to the defense. If any of you come back to that, Ms. Johnson, we will. Essentially, though, is the intent of the state to ask for the maximum sentence as to each and every of the 11 charges. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, as to the misdemeanor, would you agree count 11, that should actually be time served at this point?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Marchese, I'll turn to the defense now.
Your Honor,
And I will be looking for how much credit he has. He's been in the county jail for some period of time, so.
I'll have to count that up right now. I need some time to do that.
Let's do this. I'll come at the end.
Right.
I will give him credit for every day he's entitled to.
Your Honor, I would say, I still have all my arguments about the case and the jury instructions and all that. Getting past all that, we have a conviction for all of these charges. They do score out to a substantial amount of time. I would argue, especially now when we eliminate the misdemeanors as a prior record, you're looking at a man without any prior convictions. In the sense that as we're sentencing him here, you're sentencing him for the first time on anything that could be considered. He has not lived a life of crime. He is not a violent person. There have not been any violent crimes that he has been convicted of. It's not that he's a pattern of violence. I would argue the extent that there are mitigating factors in that this has been an isolated incident. incident. This was a man who had a long marriage. They were sweethearts, they had 5 children. And for that relationship to break up and divorce obviously didn't sit very well with him. That doesn't mean that he is a criminal by nature. Nothing indicates that that's what he does. So we've heard from his ex-mother-in-law about statements that he made or the kind of life that he lived. But as far as criminal crimes, he has none, or the convictions. So we would argue this was an isolated incident that had to do with his wife, who was trying to reach her to talk to her as she's moving on, divorcing and moving on with someone else. We would also argue that this was very unsophisticated, certainly wasn't planned, a very unsophisticated manner that went on minute to minute to minute that ended up dead. For that, you could also know that Mr. Summers has been respectful to the court at all times. He's never been disruptive. He has his own theory of defense, what to do with that, but that's what he wanted to do to present the case that he wanted to present. I agree with the court that the cross-examination of the children was very disturbing for everyone, including the children. I'm sure Mr. Summers was in that position where once he took over representation of his own case, he had to take it all the way to the end, which included cross-examining his children, which I'm sure is very difficult to do. Although the situation, everyone on the victim's side is screaming for life in prison, I do not see that as the proper punishment here. Again, look at his prior record. Does it look like he has any? This was an unsophisticated event. It certainly wasn't done for any pecuniary gain. The idea that the whole thing was about stealing a car is just ludicrous. But that's what they charged him. It was obviously more about the relationship breaking up. He wanted to try to convince his wife to stay together, and then whatever happens. But there are a number of crimes that he's been convicted of, and he's going to be sentenced to a number of years. I ask that you consider the bottom of the guidelines, the lowest permissible amount, which is about 32 years in prison.
I have 32.1125.
Yeah, that's about exactly what I have about it, at the low end of the guidelines. And I ask that there's also argument to be departure downwards because it was unsophisticated. And he didn't express remorse today. And so that would be a good ground to look. Now if we look at him, he is 45 years old as he sits here. A 32-year sentence would be a life sentence. Possibly be a life sentence. He'd be well into his mid-70s if he'd be able to get out. He'd get out. Any time more than that would definitely be a life sentence. And I would say that the children would not have to worry about Mr. Summers ever getting out. The child neglect charges are neglect charges for sending them away, putting them in the car, and having them go. They're not abuse charges as we would see in juvenile cases. This is a neglect situation that obviously showed that he loved his children and wanted his family. I think all of this was about trying to keep his family together and having it all go away. In my opinion, everything just got out of hand. It wasn't planned or pre-planned. For that, he has to be punished for what he's done, for the crimes he's been convicted of. And we ask for you to be the bottom of the guidelines, to consider mitigation, lesser sentence, as this was a terribly unsophisticated crime. I know the victim considers that she has been raped. Technically, legally, she has been. In his mind, he didn't think he raped anyone.
But his jury found him guilty.
Well, I believe that. I'm with you there. I'm not contesting the jury's verdict. I'm not contesting the evidence. I'm not contesting what the victim is saying or how she feels about it. Indicating to you from Mr. Summers' position, he never planned or intended to rape her. But as he says, he never planned, intended to kill her. He had been respectful. I do not see him as a danger. He's out 25 years. It's a long time from now. Anything longer would definitely be a life sentence for a 45-year-old man who has never been in jail before, been incarcerated now for 5.5 years. Thank you.
All right, and let me just, for the record, pursuant to the discussion that we had at the bench, you are objecting to anything as to counts 4 through 10, which are the felonies, that exceeds the statutory maximum being 15 years as to counts 4 and 5, and 5 years as to counts 6 through 10. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I do not believe the court can sentence him to more than the maximum for the statutory crime. 5 years on the third-degree felony, 15 years on the second-degree felony. Cumulatively, you could add it all up, and then on the first-degree attempted murder charges, he could get these 32 years, or he could get life on the attempted murder charge. But I do not believe you could send that down to a 15-year or 5-year sentence. I don't know what that rule is. I don't even agree with it. How you could get sentenced for a crime larger than the maximum sentence the statute requires. Mind-boggling.
All right, understand. Ms. Johnson, anything else to say?
Judge, I respectfully disagree with Mr. Marchese in his saying that Trevor Summers is not a violent person. William's rule evidence was admitted into this case, and although he has not been tried or found guilty, there was an incident that had occurred, facts that were before you, of an incident that had occurred on February 18th, and there was an injunction in place, and he ignored that injunction, that court order, and he convinced his children to let him sneak into his estranged wife's home and tied her up, put a pillow over her in attempts to kill her and try and suffocate her, and then tied her up and drove her around Hillsborough County and further south for days, and then tried to kill her again when he knew that there was going to be no way out, and he was not going to let anybody else have his wife. She was either going to have to agree to stay with him, or he was going to kill her. And there is you can call it a murder-suicide letter, you can call it whatever you want, but that's what the state would submit to you, that letter was. He intended to kill her in that car, and he was going to kill himself. He is a very violent person. He is not someone that should ever be able to be allowed to walk free again. And the state is asking that you punish him and sentence him that is consistent with the crimes he committed, and we're asking for the maximum as to each and every count.
All right, thank you, Judge. Let me first say, let me ask, because I believe, Mr. Marchese, you're having a discussion regarding the credit for time served, is that correct?
Yes,
Do you have a number?
I have a number of 2,031 days.
2,031 days. Ms. Johnson, do you have any reason to disagree with that?
No, Judge.
Okay. First, let me say that I respect the findings of the jury in this case, as I do in all cases. Second, let me say that this is a particularly sad case because of the circumstances involving family, the circumstances involving young children who have suffered greatly as a result of these crimes. A particularly sad case. Mr. Summers, I cannot and will not hold against you your decision to represent yourself. However, I do believe that the timing of your decision was born of pure evil, which is not surprising given that the circumstances of this case, the testimony and evidence that I heard clearly make you a monster in every stretch of the imagination. And as a result, first, I apologize to the victims for not being able to undo the harm, the pain that this defendant has caused you. To Arden, you should not feel guilty for anything that you did in this case. I assure you of that. I only hope that the sentence that I give today gives some sense of peace in knowing that Mr. Trevor Summers will spend the rest of his life in Florida State Prison. As to counts 1, 2, and 3, I sentence him to life in prison to run concurrent with each other. As to counts 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, I sentence him to 32.1125 years on each and every one of those counts to run consecutively. I will impose all standard court costs, fees, and fines. As to count 11, I do apologize, I will sentence him to time served on the misdemeanor. I will give him credit as to all counts of 2,031 days. He will have 30 days to appeal the judgment and sentence entered against him today. The counts 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 will be consecutive to each other and consecutive to the 3 life sentences. Again, I thank you all, and that concludes this case. However, there is a case pending in front of Judge Uson, which I don't know if we have a current date. If not, we need to give a date, and that is case number 173962. Madam Clerk, do you show a future date?
Judge, if I may.
Yes.
Judge, at this time in 2017, CF 3962, the state would be announcing a null process so that he can be transferred to Florida State Prison.
All right, state has announced the null process on 173962 at this time. So there is nothing standing in the way of his transfer to Florida State Prison to begin his life sentence. Again, I thank you all very much. State, I'll be expecting the amended score sheet that I signed. Those are normally transmitted now to Jaws. It's entirely up to you. If you want to do it that way, I'll sign it with one.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we go to the
You better get into the prison system. They'll send you to the reception area.
Are you posting this anywhere, or is there some way I can request a copy of the tape?
It's a long crime.
You're on Long Crime?
They may not want
They weren't live streaming it. Do you know when they're going to post it up?
No, I just independently do that. I like